Decades later, it's still evident that Bruce Lee was more than just a martial artist. He was a force of nature. He was one of the most beloved Asian actors and fight choreographers in cinematic history. His speed, precision, and philosophy changed the world of action cinema forever. He had an inspiring career that was tragically cut short by his untimely death in 1973. Regardless of his short on-screen moments, he left us with magical moments in the martial arts world, and his fights continue to be legendary. But out of all his jaw-dropping fights, which one reigns supreme? Today, we're counting down the 20 best recorded Bruce Lee fight moments, from legendary showdowns to some hidden gems you might have missed. Let's jump in. 20. Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan's encounter. Enter the Dragon. Imagine stepping into the ring with Bruce Lee. Now imagine doing it as a young stuntman just trying to make a name for yourself. That's exactly what happened to Jackie Chan. Before becoming a superstar, Jackie was a stunt double in Enter the Dragon. In one brief moment, he had the honor and, of course, misfortune of facing Bruce Lee. And while it was a short-lived fight, it was unforgettable. Jackie Chan came out of nowhere to give the one and only Bruce Lee a bear hug from behind, but Bruce moved with deadly precision, disarming and flipping Jackie's neck like it was nothing. But what made this scene truly special was when the behind-the-scenes stated that Bruce actually messed up and accidentally hit Jackie harder than expected. Instead of getting mad, Jackie played it cool, earning Bruce's respect and even sharing a laugh on set. This moment, though briefer than what we would have wanted, is historic, because it's the only on-screen interaction between two of the biggest martial arts legends ever. It may have been a quick fight, but it was a passing of the torch. Bruce Lee had already cemented his legacy, and Jackie Chan? Well, he was just getting started. 19. Wong Jack Man versus Bruce Lee. Toughest fight. It's the fight that changed Bruce Lee forever. But what really happened when Bruce Lee fought Wong Jack Man? Back in 1964, Bruce Lee faced off against Wong Jack Man, a traditional martial artist, in a secret fight in San Francisco. The details? Clouded in mystery. Some say Bruce finished the fight in minutes, proving his dominance. Others claim Wong held his own and forced Bruce into a longer battle than expected. What we do know is that after this fight, Bruce completely changed his martial arts philosophy. He realized that traditional kung fu was too rigid and needed to evolve into something faster, more adaptable. This moment led him to refine Jeet Kune Do, his signature fighting style that prioritized efficiency and unpredictability. Was it his toughest fight ever? Maybe. But one thing's for sure, it was one of the most important fights of his life. And if you think this was intense, just wait until you see what's next. 18. Fight with Hakim. Game of Death. If you thought Bruce Lee wasn't powerful enough, wait until you see him go up against a giant. It's like Goliath versus David in real life, only this time it's a martial arts fight. In the action movie Game of Death, Bruce Lee faced off against the towering Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, playing the role of Hakim. At 7 feet 2 inches, Kareem absolutely dwarfs Bruce with his 5 feet 8 inches, making this fight one of the most visually striking matchups ever recorded. But size doesn't matter when you're Bruce Lee, right? He adapts instantly, dodging Kareem's massive kicks and striking at his weak points. The best moment? This is when Bruce discovers that Kareem's weakness is light sensitivity and turns the fight into a deadly game of strategy. The way Bruce dodges, counters, and eventually takes down his massive opponent is pure martial arts genius. This scene is one of the most iconic fight moments ever recorded, not just in Bruce Lee's career, but in martial arts cinema as a whole. But trust me, we're just getting started. 17. Duel with O'Hara. Enter the Dragon. Revenge is a dish best served with a flying kick to the face. That's what Bruce Lee tells us in this scene. He delivered it well, one of his most brutal fight scenes ever recorded. In the action movie Enter the Dragon, Bruce's character faces O'Hara, played by Bob Wall, a towering brute responsible for the death of his sister. And from the second the fight starts, you know Bruce Lee is not there to joke and O'Hara is in trouble. Bruce doesn't just fight, he demolishes him. Every move is calculated, and every strike is explosive. The intensity in Bruce's eyes? Pure rage. Nobody messes with his sister and goes unpunished. One of the most famous moments in the scene is when O'Hara, desperate and humiliated, tries to attack with a broken bottle. Big mistake. Bruce dodges, counters, and delivers the final kick that sends O'Hara crashing into the crowd, completely knocked out. The way Bruce controls the scene, shifting between effortless grace and unmatched fury, proves why he is the best at what he does. This wasn't just a fight, it was a statement. And that final stomp, it was a message that when you mess with Bruce Lee, there's no second round. 16. The Ice Factory Battle, the Big Boss. One man, an entire factory full of enemies. And what does Bruce Lee do? Well, he takes every single one of them down. In the action film The Big Boss, Bruce's character finds himself surrounded by a gang of thugs inside an ice factory. A normal person would have run. But for Bruce Lee, he unleashes one of the most chaotic, high-energy fights ever filmed. We're talking of flying kicks, devastating punches, and bodies flying through wooden crates like they're made of paper. The coolest moment in the scene is when Bruce smashes through a wall to grab one of the bad guys. That's right, he doesn't go around the obstacle. He goes through it. It's a moment that perfectly captures Bruce's raw power and fighting instinct. The scene builds up to an intense finish where Bruce, covered in sweat and blood, stands victorious over a pile of unconscious enemies. It's the kind of action that sets the gold standard for martial arts movies. And if you think this was epic, just wait until you see who Bruce takes on next. 15. We'll show him Chinese boxing. The Way of the Dragon. Sometimes, you don't need a one-on-one showdown to prove dominance. You just need a room full of cocky fighters who don't know what's coming. In The Way of the Dragon, Bruce Lee walks into a restaurant, only to be mocked by a group of so-called martial artists. Big mistake. They arrogantly claim they'll show him Chinese boxing, but within seconds, Bruce turns the tables. What follows is a lightning-fast beatdown where he completely outclasses them with a mix of speed, precision, and effortless style. What makes this fight stand out? It's not just about power, it's about control. Bruce plays with his opponents, dodging strikes, countering with minimal effort, and humiliating them without even breaking a sweat. And that smirk on his face? He knows he's levels above them. This fight is pure Bruce Lee. Effortless, efficient, and unmatched. But the intensity only ramps up from here. 14. Duel with the Big Boss. The Big Boss. You'd think that Bruce Lee would be scared coming face to face with the Big Boss, but no. When it's time for a final battle, Bruce Lee doesn't just fight, he destroys. This showdown with the Big Boss is one of his most ruthless fights ever recorded. After tearing through an entire gang, Bruce finally comes face to face with the Big Boss, played by Han Ying-che. This isn't just any villain. This is the man responsible for all the chaos and death in the film. From the very first strike he gives him, you can feel the tension. Bruce is out for blood. The fight itself is brutal, with powerful blows, lightning-fast kicks, and a raw intensity that makes it feel real. At one point, Bruce even gets cut, but instead of backing down, he uses his own blood as fuel to fight even harder. And when he lands the final earth-shattering kick that sends the Big Boss flying, pure cinematic gold. This fight wasn't just about skill, it was about vengeance, and Bruce made sure there was no doubt about who the true master was. 13. Fight in the Hall of Mirrors. Enter the Dragon. What's scarier than fighting a master martial artist? Fighting him when you can't even see him. This moment is no doubt one of the most visually brilliant and psychological fight scenes in Bruce Lee's career, and it happens in the action film Enter the Dragon, when he faces off against the sinister Han inside a maze of mirrors. Han, armed with a razor-sharp claw, uses the reflections to hide and strike from the shadows. It's a tense game of hunter and prey, and for the first time, Bruce looks genuinely challenged. Even the audience thinks he's going down. But something changes. The thing with Bruce Lee is that he adapts. He's like water, and this is what separates him from everyone else. In the scene, instead of relying on sight, he focuses on sound and intuition. The moment he realizes the mirrors are his real enemy, he destroys them all with precise kicks and punches, forcing Han into a real fight without cheating from the reflections. And from there, it's over. Bruce unleashes hell, dodging Han's attacks and finishing him with a series of devastating strikes. This isn't just a fight. It's a masterclass in problem-solving under pressure, And when Bruce finally delivers the final crushing blow, it's pure cinematic perfection. Are you still wondering why he's still considered a master of martial arts? Let's check the next one. 12. Bruce takes on the entire dojo. Fist of Fury. One man, one dojo, dozens of enemies, and Bruce Lee takes them all down. In the action film Fist of Fury, Bruce Lee's character walks into a Japanese dojo, ready to send a clear message. Don't mess with him. What follows is one of the most ferocious fight sequences ever put on film. From the moment Bruce throws his first kick, it's an absolute massacre. He moves like a storm, dodging attacks, countering with lightning speed, and dropping opponents like flies. What makes this fight legendary is the sheer rage and precision in Bruce's movements. You can tell that he's not just fighting, he's dominating. And the moment he picks up the famous nunchucks, game over for everyone. The sound of those weapons whipping through the air alone is enough to send chills down your spine. This is the peak for Bruce Lee. Fast, ruthless, and absolutely unstoppable. And if you think this is wild, just wait until we get deeper into this list. 11. Bruce Lee. Imparting martial arts wisdom. Enter the Dragon. Bruce was a philosophical person, and this scene just proves it. Don't think, feel. 4 simple words, but with deep meaning that changed martial arts forever. While Bruce is known for his mind-blowing fight scenes, this moment from Enter the Dragon proves that his philosophy is just as powerful as his fists. Sitting by the water, Bruce teaches a young student a fundamental lesson, that true martial arts mastery isn't just about technique, but instinct. He tells the student to stop using his mind, and instead feel the movement. What is the lesson? That martial art isn't about memorizing moves. It's about flowing naturally and adapting to the techniques of your opponent. This scene is iconic because it perfectly captures what made Bruce Lee so different. He wasn't just a fighter. He was a thinker, a teacher, and a revolutionary. His ability to blend philosophy with physical combat set him apart from every martial artist before him. And while this wasn't a fight in the traditional sense, it was a battle of the mind, one that Bruce Lee won with nothing but words. 10. Joe Louis versus Bruce Lee. Let's talk about a fight that remains one of the most debated moments in martial arts history. Bruce Lee versus Joe Louis. 2 legends, one incredible showdown. But was it truly a fight or just a high-level sparring match? Joe Louis, a karate champion, once trained with Bruce Lee and later described their sessions as eye-opening. According to Louis, Bruce wasn't just fast, he was on a different level entirely. While no full footage exists of their encounters, those who witnessed them swear Bruce's skill was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Some say Louis was overwhelmed by Bruce's speed and precision, while others claim it was more of an exchange between equals. Regardless of the details, this moment earns its spot because it's a glimpse into what a real Bruce Lee fight might have looked like. Was this one of the best recorded Bruce Lee fight moments? It's up for debate, but what's not in question is Bruce's legendary skill. And trust me, the fights only get crazier from here. 9. Showdown with Chuck Norris, The Way of the Dragon. Another legendary meetup where 2 of the greatest martial artists of all time have a one-on-one. A legendary battle. This is the Colosseum fight, one of the most famous martial arts duels ever recorded. The reference is none other than a stray cat. In The Way of the Dragon, Bruce Lee faces off against Chuck Norris, playing the role of a ruthless fighter named Colt. And the fight is pure art. It starts slow with 2 masters sizing each other up, testing the waters. Then, suddenly, taking Chuck by surprise, Bruce strikes. His speed is blinding, his movements unpredictable. Chuck counters with raw power, but for Bruce, he's too fast, too precise. One of the most iconic moments in the scene is Bruce ripping out a chunk of Chuck Norris's chest hair mid-fight. It's a small but hilarious moment in an otherwise intense duel. But the real highlight is the final sequence, where Bruce's agility and adaptability completely overwhelm Chuck. A devastating kick seals the deal, leaving Bruce victorious in one of the greatest one-on-one fights ever filmed. This wasn't just a fight, it was a masterclass in martial arts, and Bruce made sure the world knew exactly who the true dragon was. 8. Nunchuck scene, Way of the Dragon. If you hear the sound of wooden sticks whipping through the air, you already know what's coming. Bruce Lee's legendary nunchuck scene. Although Bruce Lee hated the nunchuck weapon early in his career, calling it a worthless piece of junk in his I Am Bruce Lee documentary, he masterfully adopted them later on and proved to be a worthwhile weapon after all. In The Way of the Dragon, Bruce is surrounded by enemies, and instead of throwing punches like he's used to, he reaches for his signature weapon. What follows is a flawless display of speed, skill, and absolute dominance. Bruce twirls the nunchucks so fast they're almost invisible, effortlessly smacking down every opponent who dares to get close. But here's what makes this scene so special. Bruce doesn't just use nunchucks as a weapon. He turns them into an extension of his body. Every spin, every strike, every movement is perfectly timed, showing just how much control he had over his techniques. By the end of the scene, Bruce is standing tall, enemies knocked out around him, and the nunchucks are still whipping through the air like a storm. This moment cemented Bruce Lee as the undisputed master of the nunchucks, and to this day, no one has done it better. 7. Bruce Lee vs. the Mafia, Way of the Dragon. What's more dangerous than fighting one opponent? That would be fighting against a whole mafia gang. But when you're Bruce Lee, that's just another piece of cake waiting at the office. In The Way of the Dragon, Bruce takes on an entire mob of fighters, proving why he's the most unstoppable martial artist to ever live. The fight starts with Bruce dodging and weaving, making his enemies look clumsy. Then, in a blink, he goes on the attack, kicking, flipping, and smashing through them like a human tornado. One of the best moments is when Bruce literally punches a guy so hard he flies across the room. The way he fights isn't just about power, it's about style. Every movement is smooth, every strike is calculated, and every opponent falls like dominoes. By the end of the scene, Bruce is standing alone, surrounded by an army of knocked-out bodies. The Mafia came looking for a fight, and instead, they got a martial arts masterclass. 6. Bruce Lee licking his own blood, Enter the Dragon. You know a fight is serious when Bruce Lee tastes his own blood, and instead of backing down or being afraid, he goes full beast mode. In Enter the Dragon, Bruce faces off against the deadly Han, and for the first time in the fight, he gets cut. Most fighters would take a step back and rethink if they wanted to continue. But Bruce? He just smiles, licks the blood off his fingers, and keeps fighting like an animal. We can all agree that this is one of the most savage moments in martial arts cinema history. What makes this fight so intense is the sheer ferocity of Bruce's attacks. After getting cut, he switches gears completely. His strikes become faster, sharper, and more brutal. You can feel the shift in energy, as Bruce goes from calm warrior to unstoppable predator. The final sequence is a flurry of bone-crushing kicks and a devastating finishing blow that leaves no doubt that Bruce Lee wasn't just a fighter, he was a force of nature. 5. Bruce Lee versus katana-wielding karate master, Fist of Fury. What's more dangerous than a skilled fighter? A skilled fighter with a katana. But when you're Bruce Lee, that doesn't scare you. It just makes the fight more interesting. In Fist of Fury, Bruce goes toe-to-toe with a deadly karate master, who's armed with a razor-sharp katana. It's a classic battle of speed versus steel, and Bruce, as always, is faster. Every sword swing is met with lightning-fast dodges, and Bruce counters with brutal kicks and strikes that keep his opponent on edge. The best part is when Bruce catches the katana mid-fight with nothing but his bare hands. It's a moment that feels unreal, but Bruce makes it look effortless. And when he finally turns the fight around, disarming his opponent and delivering the final devastating blow, it's game over for the karate master. This scene proves that Bruce wasn't just a fighter. He was a master of control, able to outmaneuver and outthink even the most dangerous opponents. 4. Bruce Lee versus the Warehouse Fighters, Way of the Dragon. In scenes before, Bruce Lee just proved that even if he was outnumbered, he didn't care. When Bruce Lee stepped into the warehouse full of enemies, it was game over. In this legendary scene from The Way of the Dragon, Bruce finds himself surrounded by a gang of fighters inside a dimly lit warehouse. And instead of backing down, he systematically destroys every single one of them. It's fast, aggressive, and completely unstoppable. What makes this fight so iconic is the variety of techniques Bruce uses. He flows between punches, kicks, grapples, and even weapons, proving he's the most versatile fighter alive. One moment, he's launching high-flying kicks. The next, he's flipping opponents over his shoulder like they weigh nothing. By the end of the fight, Bruce is the only one standing surrounded by bodies. It's the kind of scene that makes you realize this man was on a completely different level. 3. Bruce Lee versus the Shaolin monks, the big boss. Bruce Lee does it again. Taking on one skilled fighter is tough. But what about an entire group of Shaolin monks? Only Bruce Lee could pull off a fight like this and make it look effortless. In The Big Boss, Bruce finds himself surrounded by multiple monks, each a master in their own right. But here's the thing. While they fight with discipline and structure, Bruce fights with instinct and adaptability. And that's what gives him the edge. The fight is a perfect blend of traditional martial arts and Bruce's unique philosophy. He dodges their synchronized attacks, counters with lightning-fast strikes, and moves through them like a ghost, always one step ahead. And the best part? That would be watching Bruce use their own techniques against them, proving that rigid styles don't stand a chance against true adaptability. By the end, the monks are on the ground, and Bruce stands tall, the ultimate warrior, unstoppable and unmatched. 2. Last fight scene. Enter the Dragon. One-on-one fights are intense, but when the stakes are life or death, that's when you get one of the greatest fight scenes ever filmed. The final battle in Enter the Dragon pits Bruce Lee against Han, the film's ruthless villain. But this isn't just a fight, it's a psychological war. Han fights dirty, using a clawed hand to slice at Bruce, forcing him to fight not just with skill, but with strategy. What makes this scene so legendary? The build-up. The way Bruce studies Han's movements, waiting for the right moment to strike back with absolute precision. The tension builds and builds, until Bruce explodes into action, unleashing a fury of strikes that leave Han completely outmatched. And then, bam! The final finishing blow sends Han crashing to his doom. This fight isn't just a masterclass in martial arts, it's pure cinema, proving why Bruce Lee was and always will be the greatest of all time. 1. The final flying kick, Fist of Fury, and finally, the flying kick. One moment, one kick, one legend. They say that no fight in Bruce Lee's career is as iconic as the final showdown in Fist of Fury. After a brutal battle against an entire dojo of enemies, Bruce faces his last challenge, an army of gunmen blocking his escape. He knows there's no way out. But does he surrender? Never. Not Bruce Lee. Instead, he charges forward and delivers the most legendary flying kick in movie history. The scene alone gives you a certain adrenaline. Bruce lets out his famous battle cry, eyes locked on his opponents. Then, in one explosive motion, he leaps through the air, his body fully extended, his kick aimed with absolute precision. The frame freezes, capturing a moment so perfect that it became one of the most famous martial arts images ever. This wasn't just a fight. It was a statement. A final moment of defiance. A display of absolute power. It was Bruce Lee at his most unstoppable, and it remains one of the greatest Bruce Lee fights ever recorded. What do you think of the video? Which fight was your favorite? Did we miss any legendary moments? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next video.